brighter. Gon' shine and my people gon' rise. 'Cause we're born to it, yeah. I ain't saying but I'm saying.
Favorite characteristic of God, but finding it in it is hard. It's like trying to find God. You're the only one in your camp with cheese. You pay for everything they eat. Man, that insecurity is deep. Now I ain't said no names. These are just theories. If you hear me, baby, it's home. You must admit it's kinda eerie, baby. Like them chemtrails in the sky. Hate the selling the slaves, kinda like the combines. We say everything in moderation, but don't do it in moderation. The lies of a gluttonous generation. 10-year-old girl.
Well, Grand Rising and good morning, everybody out there. Welcome to the Day with Trae. Want to thank you guys for watching the show right here on Converge Media. I also want to welcome you on this. It looks like amazing weather Thursday. I know we've had some ups and downs here this week when it comes to the weather, but the sun is back out and shining. And of course, that's always a great time in the Pacific Northwest. Of course, if you cannot watch the show, you can also listen to this show anywhere you find your favorite podcast. Just search Converge Media Network. We're on all of the platforms: Google, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast. You guys can find us there. And you guys know this is the top of the show, so it's always a great time for you to tag and share the stream. Go ahead, tag and share the stream with folks you feel could benefit from a daily dose of dopeness right here on the Day with Trae. And we do have a dose of dopeness for you. This is Thursday, and normally we would have our clapback queen in the building, Julia Jessi, but she is out in community in DC. So shout out to you, Jules, sending you love. We want you to enjoy the event that you are at, community event. Of course, it's always great when we can tap into the ground and what's happening. So I'm sure we'll be hearing from Jules next Thursday. But of course, it's always a great reminder for y'all to tune in tonight. Clapback Culture, 7 p.m. right here on Converge Media. You know they're going to be having some amazing topics, and oftentimes it's things I don't have the time to cover. So please make sure you guys tap in with Julia Jessi tonight on Clapback Culture. This is something that actually just hit the airwaves, and this is a bit of history that many of us are familiar with, and some of you may not be so familiar with some of the details here in the Emmett Till case. But it looks like there are some new developments here that are causing the Emmett Till's family to now seek out new charges on this case. Check this out.
And breaking right now, a discovery in the nearly 70-year-old murder case of Chicago teenager Emmett Till. A team searching for evidence in Till's murder found an unserved arrest warrant in the basement of a Mississippi courthouse. That warrant charged a white woman in Till's 1955 kidnapping. The woman in question was Carolyn Bryant Dunham, who was married to one of the men acquitted in Till's murder. The team that made the discovery included 2 members of Till's family and the Till Legacy Foundation. Now the family is demanding that Dunham be served and charged in the case.
Wow, there it is right there. Now, this is some kind of shocking news, but at the same time, not so shocking. I mean, we have talked about the peeling back the onion when it comes to the layers of racism in this country. And, I've been seeing a lot of different social media posts and different news outlets kind of talking about how, white women have been, a part of this. I think there is this misnomer that we think about the Ku Klux Klan and we think about white men going out and charging out in Black communities, lynching, all of that. But we have to remember that these lynching events and these kinds of racist acts were things that all white families were partaking in. The women would bring the children if the men were, a part of the lynching, even if they weren't. This was families that would come out and see these kinds of events happening. And Emmett Till's case is very specific because this is a representation of what many Black men were dealing with at that time. If you looked at a white woman the wrong way, if they said he whistled at her, so it was almost as if he was flirting with her. And that in and of itself was cause enough for his death to occur, but not just occur. It was in a heinous way, right? We're talking about this young Black man who was in his teens, being drugged and stabbed and all of the things that happened to him just the epitome of the heinous acts, right, that were taking place at that time. And I'm glad that we see that this is happening here, and that his family is saying, look, there is evidence that, the accuser was there pointing him out, and that's what they're reading in these court documents, that she was there to make sure that they found exactly him. And so, it wasn't just them going on a wild goose chase. Yes, they caught up with two men before that, who she said, no, it wasn't him. But when they got to Emmett Till, she actually pointed the finger there. So the fact that, now there's something maybe that can happen here, just even if it's in precedence, I think it's important. And I'm glad that we're able to kind of bring that out today. It's one of those things where, there is this constant press for, equity and inclusion and all of this kind of thing, this language, diversity, equity, inclusion. We know DEI is big right now. And there's this constant work that's being done by so many different community members in a multitude of communities to connect with this movement and to do what they can. And so that's always why you guys hear me telling you to be a part of the solution, because it's so important that all of us are really engaged and involved in that way. Well, also, my girl Base has been hitting the streets, and she was able to sit down and interview a very important person. Let's check this out.
As someone that has so many successful brands, do you feel like you really create your brand, or does the consumer create the brand?
It's it's both. It's a great question. I like that. It's a combination. So to me, it's what's in the bottle. I use Bamboo, my rum. I wanted a taste that's better than our competition. I wanted something that's unique and different. Oh, nice. And you're empty. You're empty. That's not clear liquid. That's empty liquid.
No, it's empty. We drank that.
But I wanted a better tasting product, and I wanted a better story. And all my brands have the same thing, where I can't launch it in the market unless I feel like it's better than what I'm going up against. But once it gets out there, I don't know what I have. And the market and the consumer is the one who tells me. He or she tells me where to go, or who's interested in it, or who wants to get on board. So Wayne loves this brand. He's interested in it. I didn't approach him. Wayne loved the brand and wanted to be a part of this. It wasn't part of the plan. Or Bel Air. We've got these groups out there, Bel Air Boys, Black Bottle Boys, Black Bottle Girls. That started with consumers. We embrace that. We own what the consumer did, and we see its success that way. Bamboo in Canada, I love this story. Canada is our single biggest market in the world outside the U.S., and no one from our company has ever been there.
Wow, how do you think that happened?
They took hold of it. And so to me, some people, I want to embrace it's the key to life. Embrace your fans, embrace your consumer, whoever they are, no matter where they come from, no matter who they are, embrace them. And because I'm embracing that market, I'm saying, okay, you like me, I like you. Let's go do something, and let's keep feeding that. In the country of Latvia, I had to look at a map to see where it was. We're the fastest growing brand in the whole country. It's not like they're a rum market, but I embraced it because they love the brand. And if you do that, you can always win.
Wow. Embracing the brand. There it is. Brett Barish. We are so, I'm going to tell you right now, I agree with that right there. I think that there's so much that can be done in terms of growing a brand. And we may hear from Besa a little bit more on this tomorrow, because, there was so much more gems in that interview there with Brett Barish. And honestly, when we think about brands globally, oftentimes, people will tell you in order to build a successful brand, you have to know what you're bringing out, and you have to know, number one, who your customer is. And so it's really important there. I love what he said there, because it's really a both and approach. Not only is it on the onus is on the company to make sure they know what they're doing and what they're selling, and they do it good and do it well, but also that they understand who that customer is, and that they vibe and mesh with that customer. The fact that there are folks who say, look, I want to get involved, and they're open to that expands the opportunity opportunities of their brand, that expands the reach of their brand now by embracing that kind of connectedness with their consumer. And so I love hearing this message. I agree 100%. I think one of the things that we've really done here at Converge Media is understood who we're creating media for, right? And the lane that we really want to be in, and the fact that it can take all different sorts of kinds of ways. We are here. We have a multi-ethnic team here at Converge, but we've always been very specific about being like, man, Black media matters. It matters for us to be telling the stories of community and those who are in the world doing great things that often don't get that spotlight. So I love hearing this because I too agree with that. And this is why, we appreciate the supporters so much. We appreciate all of you out there that are donating to Converge, tagging and sharing the stream, telling your friends about Converge, reaching out to us to come onto our shows. All of that is the way that we approach this work in building media here for the Pacific Northwest. So thank you so much, Besa and Brett. Great interview. Actually, like I said, maybe hearing from Besa a little bit more on this tomorrow. Sounds like they dove into some really amazing topics. Well, of course, I get to dive into some amazing topics after the break. I'm going to be talking to my guy, Curtiss Calhoun, a coach with the most. That's what I'm deeming him. He's going to be giving us another tip here on the Realifer approach to your life. Stay tuned after this short break, y'all. You're watching The Day with Trae.
Hey guys, Besa Gordon here, and before heading to Belize, Trae Holiday and I had to make sure we linked up with our good friends over at Market Street Shoes to, of course, grab a few things for the trip. From bags to socks, shoes, sunglasses, earrings, and more. Before going on any trip, make sure you stop at Market Street Shoes. Trust me, you'll find just what you need to make your trip not only enjoyable, but fashionable.
What up, y'all? It's T-Dub. I'm here at Converge Media to let you know about my new venture, The Resole. We are introducing Seattle's first dry cleaner for sneakers, and we want you to be a part of it. Head over to www.theresole206.com this Juneteenth weekend for our official website launch.
Welcome back, everybody, to The Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday, and joining me right now, first time on my family set, is Curtiss Calhoun, coach with the most. What's up, Curtiss?
Peace, Trae. How you doing this morning?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Well,
thanks for having me back.
Yeah, of course. And, there's already some good momentum around people appreciating your message the first time you were here. So I'm glad that we have this recurring on the books. And honestly, you have some amazing points that you want to make sure our audience hears about. Definitely. We heard about tip 1 last time. Mm-hmm. Tell us now what people can expect from tip 2.
Well, I wanted to go back. We had talked about kind of revisiting tip 1 or principle 1. And principle 1 is being able to give 110% at everything you do. So we really didn't give the importance or the benefits of why we should do that. So number 1 is so we don't have regrets. Regrets weigh us down. They kind of make it heavy. It's like, the old movie Christmas Carol with Scrooge and the chains. So regrets weigh us down and it prevents us from taking advantage of opportunities. It hurts our confidence, our self-image, things like that. So we definitely want to make sure we avoid that if possible. So that by giving 110% at everything, that helps to do that. Number 2 is that it gives us kind of a reference point to know where we're at. If we're giving 110% and we're not getting the results that we want, it now gives us a frame of reference where we are and what we need to do to improve to get to where we do want to be and get the results that we do want. And then there's just that feel-good hormone that it releases by, you hear people say, well, I worked out and it's that good sore, right? Or that good hurt. Well, that's the same thing. We want to give our all, and it always feels good to do that because we know there's nothing else we could do. We did everything we could. So it gives us that feel-good hormone.
This is exactly what I think a lot of folks need to understand. These approaches, these principles, they're not just about business or life, but they're also some things that you just pointed out there. It's like biological, molecular, right? I mean, because when you think about the things that you need to, reduce cortisol from flowing through your body, these are some of the things that you can do to actually combat that, right?
Absolutely. And this is what I call muscle memory, right? Because your brain is a muscle. So if you train your brain to think in certain ways and create those neural pathways, when you get in those moments where it's tense, stressful, whatever, your brain will automatically revert to those thoughts in the way you've programmed it to respond in that way that you want it to respond at those times. Yeah,
that right there is really echoing other points that are made by Haru was just talking about things like this, right? Like, hey, we can reprogram ourselves, right? With the breathing techniques. And he mentioned like 5 high tips of how Qigong. So I love that this is all really interconnected. See, okay. So great recap on approach and principle number 1.
One more thing with number 1, right? Because I want to leave people always every week with something tangible that they can do that will help them move the needle to where they want to be. So with this, that number 1 piece, what I want you to do is look for a time in your life where maybe you didn't give 110%. Evaluate that, see what you felt like, what was the result like, who was around, what was the situation, and then take that information. Then also look at a time when you did give 100%. Same thing. What was the result? How did you feel? Put those together. And every time you go through a situation, evaluate it, and you're constantly able to improve and move the needle.
That is a really great thing to take away right there. I think not enough of us actually take time to reflect on moments like this in our lives. But when we do, we learn so much more, not just about that particular situation, but our constant approach. And really, if you see it over time, you'll start to see that pattern of behavior, right? That's like, oh, that's the thing that I need to break right there. Because now I'm seeing how I keep showing up every time I'm not giving 110, and what I can glean from and lean more towards every time I do. Thanks for that takeaway, Curtiss.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you were saying now today there's a principle number two.
So principle number 2 is you're 100% accountable for everything that happens in your life, especially what you think, feel, say, and do. So there's 3 bullets that go along with that. And the first one is to investigate everything and never take anything on face value. That's important because you're going to be the one responsible, like almost like what you just said. You're the common denominator in every situation you find yourself in, but you want to be the person responsible for the outcome. So if somebody shares with me, hey, it's going to be sunny today, and I go around and tell a whole bunch of people that when it turns out to rain, now they're looking at me like I gave the bad information. So I have to do my due diligence and go find out, make sure, okay, hey, yeah, it is going to be sunny. They check the Weather Channel, do whatever necessary. The second one is we want to be able to be accountable and responsible for the choices we make and the outcomes attached to them. Again, you can kind of see the theme here is that we're responsible for the things that happen in our life and nobody else, because that's a lot of weight for most folks to carry. But the big thing is you never have to depend on somebody else for the things that you want. And everything is in your lap or in your control to be able to get the things out of life that you want. And the last one is to be able to analyze or evaluate negative situations that happen in our lives, right? And the reason why that's important is because, like we just talked about, we want to be able to go back and look, where's that why in the road? Where if I had done this, it would have produced a better outcome or a different result. I have my wife's brother. He's a world-ranked chess champion. And when I was there in Morocco, he was teaching me some tips and saying, one of the ones that really stuck with me is when you find a good move, look for a better one, right? So, and I started to think, good is not best. So usually when we find something, I found this is good, I'm, take advantage. But that doesn't mean it's the best. There may be something out there better, but if you don't look, you don't know. So the same thing with our actions, there may be a better move for us that will produce a better result with less effort, more ease, and greater benefit. So it's always being able to evaluate what we could have done different, not just one thing, but we want to look at it from a whole 360-degree angle. So we can look at maybe 10 or 12 options we would have had and pick the best out of those 10 or 12 or whatever it may be.
Yeah, this is really, really interesting, see, because so much of this is about that not only is it about the responsibility piece, but it's about the analyzation. And I think, again, we understand, okay, I'm responsible for my actions, but what does that really mean? Particularly when you're breaking down certain things that may create blockages towards your growth or development, right? And oftentimes we see that. And when we talk about Black community, there's so many different things, right? But are you allowing those things to stop you or halt you from being your best version of yourself? You know, because like, hey, I get to rest on this crutch, man. Hey, they ain't never wanted us here in this country. They, you know what I mean? I get to rest over here and I get to be off that. But what does it do for you? And I think there's not enough of us that understand how to eliminate those kinds of mentalities that are really causing blockages. So I appreciate this tip right here, because we really do have to be understanding all of the elements to what it means for us to be responsible for our actions, right? And then to analyze those negative behaviors, negative traits in a way that allow us to eliminate them, to alleviate them from our world. So much of this makes a lot of sense. And I think it's different for different communities, because again, they're dealing with different societal norms that are either, positives or negatives in their life. Is that right?
Well, that's why it's important for us to always evaluate now. Like you said, we deal with emotional intelligence. So that's self-awareness. That first part you're talking about, being aware of those things that may be holding us back, because that's what this whole program is intended to do, is be able to help you eliminate the self-sabotage in our lives, right? Because a lot of times we sabotage our success. So that self-awareness is key, but then self-management is the other piece. So what it is we always have to be constantly analyzing and evaluating our belief system, our ways of being, our behaviors, and our routines to make sure they're serving us. And if anything is not serving us, we have to let that go. There's a lot of things that our parents told us, or we picked up from our parents or authority figures when we were young. Just because they were authority figures doesn't mean it's the best thing that we should be able to continue to do or continue doing in our lives. Maybe it doesn't serve us or produce the results that we want. And we have to go on our own, like I kind of talked about the last time, our own personal journey to see what are those things that really help us to get to where we want to be.
Yeah, this you have to take a personal approach to this. I mean, this isn't cookie cutter stuff we're talking about here. And even though the principles may be the same for someone, there really is a very specific personalized approach that everybody has to take. And so how do you deal with that when clients are coming to you? How do you understand those adjustments that maybe they need to make to personalize it for them?
Well, really, as a coach, we see everybody as whole. So when somebody comes into me, all the answers that they need or require to have the things in their life they want are already inside. What we do is just ask the right questions to pull it out of them, right? So we see the person as whole and everything they need is there. But everybody's different. We customize it to each individual person, and everybody has their own unique life experiences that help them to either create the life that they want or that hinders them from creating the life that they want. And it's identifying those things that are hindering us so we can address those and move forward, because we get stuck with trauma. We kind of talked about with the racial stuff and the things that happen in the country. We were talking about Emmett Till earlier. So we get stuck in trauma, and that keeps us stuck in a mindset or a way of thinking. And we have to be able to identify that and get past that.
Yeah, this is something that spiritually I deal with all the time in my spiritual realm and with my spiritual practice. It's really me understanding that I have the control, right? That so much of what you're describing is very similar to like how ancient civilizations did it. And I talk a lot about this because it is something that is so beneficial in my world that I can't help but to talk about it, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, if I would have grown up knowing this, if I would have seen it exemplified in my parents, you know what I mean? It's like there's so much awareness now about how much we actually get to control these things instead of being like, no, this is how I've always done it, so this is the way I'm always going to do it. That's not the case. And, a lot of us have to take a real deep look in the mirror to be able to understand how we are contributing to certain things in our lives or how we are taking away from certain things in our lives. And that right there, is exactly what you're talking about here today, because not enough people are doing that kind of work. Now, when you deal with somebody who's stuck there, they're just like, look, I don't care. I see racial injustice, I'm going to get upset. It doesn't matter. And you're like, look, think about how you getting upset is maybe harming you. How do you really walk them through that when they're really stuck on something that you know isn't serving them as a coach?
We go back to that. The first principle, anytime when we have that first discovery session with a person, the number one thing that I want to see from an individual that I work with is that you're committed to being your best self. Because if you're not, then anything can come along and knock you off track. And you can use that, like you talked about earlier, as an excuse as why not, or why didn't I do something, or why it didn't turn out that way. But if we're committed to being our best self, when something comes up, we're willing to accept that, make the necessary changes, because I know it's going to get me where I want to be in life or produce the result in life that I want.
Yeah, there it is right there. I mean, that commitment is very key. Yeah. And I've seen it too, where people, you start off one way because like you got a lot of energy. You're like, no, look, I know I need this in my life. I don't care what it takes. But when you hit that road, that crossroad, and you know what I mean, what do you do then, and how do you show up? Or what are some of the takeaways that folks can do with this principle number 2 to like embody it in their lives? What are some of the things that they can do to use this?
Really, like it was that last bullet point. So when we evaluate negative outcomes or results, right? Something happened in our life we didn't want to happen that way. It's being able to go back and look, like we talked about that why in the road. Where could I have done something different that would have changed this? And every time something like that comes up, you need to evaluate and see what you could have did, because now you're adding on the knowledge for the next time. Yeah. Whenever something happens with my wife or kids or something like that, we're not talking now because we can't change what already happened, but we can change what happens in the future if we look at what went wrong here and make sure we don't replicate that or duplicate that in the future.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, man. This takes on all kind of forms, because not only is it like in my professional world, it's family, it's, it's out here in community. It really is these real lifer tips. I get it, because it permeates all facets of life. Yes. Oh my goodness. See, I can't thank you enough for bringing us this every other week right here. We're going to be like, think it through Thursday. That's what I think we got to see. Like think it through Thursday with Curtiss Calhoun. This is amazing, because honestly, to break it down one principle at a time just gives us enough of a chunk of knowledge for us to take it and do something with it. Yeah. So thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me back. I appreciate it. Love the new set.
Thank you. Yes. I hope the couch is comfy.
Comfy. I've been taking a nap with these pillows.
There we go. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you.
I told you guys, we're going to be giving you guys these tips and principles every other week. Think it through Thursday. We want you to think it through. When Curtiss comes on, make sure you guys are taking these tips and using them to the benefit of your lives, your family, neighborhood, community, all of that, your circle of influence, because these are some phenomenal principles that C is going to be dropping with us every other Thursday. Can't thank him enough for being with us. And of course, after this short break, I get to recap this show and also give you guys a little tidbit about what you can expect tomorrow. Stay tuned, you guys. You're watching The Day with Trae.
What up, y'all? It's T-Dub. I'm here at Converge Media to let you know about my new venture, The Resole. We are introducing Seattle's first dry cleaner for sneakers, and we want you to be a part of it. Head over to www.theresole206.com this Juneteenth weekend for our official website launch.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Day with Trae. Got to give my guy, Curtiss Calhoun, a big shout out for being on the show with me today. Also, thanks to Besa for that amazing clip. It was just a snippet of the conversation and interview that she was able to have with Brett Barish. And so we may be able to hear from a little bit more from Besa tomorrow, trying to make sure that it flows with folks' schedules. But of course, I want you guys to also know you can catch up with Curtiss Calhoun at CurtissCalhoun.com. That is CurtissCalhoun.com. You can also find him on Instagram at the same handle at Curtiss Calhoun. You know, if you are looking to take on a life coach, somebody to help you take your life or business or approaches to life to the next level, Curtiss Calhoun is definitely somebody in community who is highly respected and really knows his business. So we want to make sure you guys know how to check in with him. Of course, I got to thank all y'all for watching today. And I always want you to be inspired to see yourself as a part of the solution. Curtiss kind of told us his origin story the last time he was here and how he woke up and had so many of these principles come to him through dreaming, through his own life experience, and continuing in on that. He is now seeing himself as a part of the solution by bringing these principles to everyone. So I want you guys to be inspired. You guys know that for me, I'm always inspired by the guests I have on here. But the point of this is for you to also feel that inspiration so you can see yourself as a part of the solution. I want to thank all of y'all for watching. And until tomorrow at 11 a.m., peace. Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.